see. Why couldn't the market have just held off for me to get home so I could have made my changes? All right, let me see. Share your screen. See what we are looking at today. Neoclouds took a beating, of course. They always do. Nothing out of the norm. Cypher's trying to hold on to that trend line. Need it to hold. I can't expect a gap fill to 14. And then big correction for the whole market will be in this zone. Let's see. Okay. So that's why things are green right now this morning. They're bringing down the bonds. Well, so yeah, that's the one thing is because I did see a post where like in order for Japan to save themselves, they have to dump our treasuries and then our bonds skyrocket and we're fucked. Or they have to raise interest rates, which obviously hurts everybody on growth and slowing. There just really wasn't an out for them other than us getting our bonds and everything down for them to liquidate and then bring our bonds back up. So we're going to see how that kind of plays out. But very important to be watching these bonds. Oil's still at 84, even though we apparently control the strait. And apparently we don't need them, and they're only 2% of our oil. So I don't think that's really the case, even though they want to spit that rumor out. Let me turn on, sorry, my camera. Turn on camera. Alrighty. Ugh. Been a while since I had to look at a computer. Crazy. Let's see here. VIX is dropping back down. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, this could just have been the warning shot to what can happen. So we obviously went up to the top of the band of the VIX, back down to the bottom, middle part right now. Fill the gap would be cool. That would be your opportunity to exit your positions. Bitcoin moving up. I mean, I hope we have a nice little pop regain today. You can close out, move positions around. Obviously, I always want the market. What's up, dog? I always want the market to run because I don't care if my stuff gets called away. It's better for it to get called away than it to just continue to dump, right? Like, no matter what, I want the market to run. So let's go to the SPY. Let's see. 50-day, 200-day. The volume wasn't in. I'm on the 4 hour. I was like, that volume wasn't insane. Okay, that's more like it. All right, volume's there. Curling on the daily. Didn't lose it yet. It could just fill this gap up. Watch for this gap fill and then us possibly go right back down. We've been talking about it this whole time because of this divergence here. This correction divergence. From here and down. Well, we made new highs. This made a down, right? And then we made another high, and it's still lower than this previous high. So, little divergence there. Pullback. The big pullback that everyone's talking about, by the way, guys, is coming all the way back down to like the 200 weeklies that you kind of have to be prepared for. Because we do have it happen. Okay. 200 weekly weighted and the 200 weekly SMA. Even right here, the 2020 drop off was just a freaking dump fest. And then rally. So like this is what they're kind of expecting, which is over like the next possible 2 months, September into the beginning of October. big sell-off all the way down here, to then a huge rally for the next 12 months. It's happened in 2018, it's happened in 2020, happened in 2022, happened in 2025, happening possibly this year. We're going to see. We're not going to go all out of the market, but definitely always want to keep. Right now, I'm just playing all defense still. The only ones I wasn't able to get defense on because I did think ASTS was going to run a little bit more was my ASTS. I thought we were going to break above that, and then at the time, the moving average was below that band. So I thought we were going to get there, but the band is just squeezing tighter and tighter. Let's see, gap fill completely 64. But I'm not interested really, guys, until I'm not trying to buy this quick dip for me. I'm still trying to just play the defense route. I'm looking for more of the RSIs to be in the 30 or lower, for us to kind of be interested in setting some CSPs. TEM is off to 15%. I don't know what they announced. FDA win could unlock major reimbursement growth. That's a huge win for them. Let's see. What are the big ones you guys are watching right now? I'm just kind of going to go through everything because I haven't looked at a whole lot besides on my phone at the quick little charts. But Meta. Let me see. Quick. There it is. All right. So let me just take off all the noise on that chart real quick. You're at a very strong, right, support line here. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, almost 4, 5, rebounded quick, back to the 6 touch, 7 touch bounce, bouncing, rejecting. It's clearly a very strong line in general, whether or not it's support or resistance. Bouncing. So starting since 2018, this line has been used as a support and resistance line. Obviously, when we do lose this, it can be a drastic loss. Let's take a look at the weekly time frame. Weekly is still negative. Let me go to the big daddy of all the indicators real quick. As of right now, still fairly negative on the weekly. 2 hour is getting attractive. So you are probably right with the short-term bounce coming. Could do the same thing it kind of did right here where, it came up and couldn't break the 200 SMA and then rejected it. So we could see another one, another chop section just based on the 2 hour time frame, which would put you, what is that, 595? Is it 9:30? Oh, it is. Okay, we're off to the races. Let me see where things kind of happened first thing this morning. I don't even have my brokerage up, to be honest. That's bad. Come on. All right, total return. Cypher start dumping again. Yep, down 2%. I don't think this green holds. Overall, I don't. Because people are going to see it as scared yesterday, get a bounce, and be like, I just want to get out. Right? So I don't think it holds, but I hope it holds. Let's see. Let's take a look. Just give everything a second to marinate. Come on. Flip green. Cypher is my only CSP I'm in. Everything else is covered calls. And really, the only way for me to raise a bunch of capital is to sell SoFi. It's really the only way for me to get, like, yeah, it's the only way really for me to raise a lot of capital. And the weekly is still bullish on SoFi, so it's the only reason why I don't care to get rid of it is because it's one of the few that is like truly has a good range of like buffer on the weekly time frame. So it might get called away on its own, but remember, if it gets called away, my break-even selling point is like 1930 something at this resistance point. So that's okay with me. Hims can get called away. Just needs to stay above 29. It's possible. I still don't see it going to 10 unless the whole market died. What else? Meta. Good morning. QCOM, I know a lot of people have been talking about it. Let's take a look. But we need to start looking for tech, non-tech companies, right? That are like gonna do well during the market turn down. So we need to be looking for ones that probably got the weekly diamond last week. Let me see. I wasn't looking at them. NNE. Nope. Not nuclear. Not what I wanted. Quantum scope. Where is... One thing like what went well last time was like Cake, right? Cake ran last time on the bad when everything was pulling back. Not now, so yeah, Cake's gonna die off. But we gotta find those ones. Hims is running. SoFi running. It's okay. Give us a nice little buffer for running. Whatever buffer we can get for the next pull down. Cypher's gonna pull down. Here's my chart for last time on Cypher. It's the weekly. Daily lost. Let me get these moving averages. Let's see. Sorry, just catching up with what's been going on. I still want to own Cypher. There's no doubt about it. We have a CSP for 15, which will put us, I think, in the 13s for our first buy, and then we'll average down once we kind of get to this area. Let's see here. Meta. You got a bounce meta? Let's go to a shorter time frame. 1 hour, looking juicy. I think it does bounce, but it's not giving me a whole lot of confidence. It's giving so many mixed signals with the indicators. Do have a nice bullish divergence happening. Momentum peaking up. Curling action. RSI remains low. Volume is showing a nice bullish trend, at least on the 15-minute. So I do think you could see a reversal. Just don't know how strong it's going to be. But it's meta, right? Like, I think your RSI is 35. Yeah, I mean, let me go to the simple chart real quick on meta. Daily. Let's see here. I want this little horizontal one. RSI 35. Right now. Just trying to find all the ones that are 33. Trying to see if I can spot the differences. And then here is obviously a dump down to 22. Trend line. Still red. I mean, look, I mean, you still have everything kind of. You don't know where this one's going to curl, but this one did for sure. Higher, while this was still dropping higher. It doesn't look like if the 2 hour looked a little better for me, I'd feel more confident. But this EMA on the 2 hour RSI is not very low like it was here on the previous turn up. What was the volume yesterday? Volume, I guess, yesterday was very low. Oh, it's on the 2 hour. Sorry. Nope, never mind. On the day it was high. 2 hours low. Let's see. What do we got? Japan. Bond yield still down with market open. VIX down. Hopefully this market can continue to push. Let's go back to the SPY real quick. Let's go to the 2 hour. Yep, here we go. It's going to come up, fill that freaking gap. Picture you're going to go up, fill this gap, and then you're going to come back down. That's what I would imagine. That's how I imagine that would play out. All right. Miguel's in it. For 1016, Miguel's in these shorter ones. Miguel bought 100 shares. I mean, Meta short-term noise. I mean, it's all kind of irrelevant, I think, to Meta. I think it just creates buying opportunities, like Miguel's saying and doing. I just think that. Let's see, where are these weekly moving averages at? Oh, that's Microsoft. Freaking M's. 483 is still the 200 SMA, or 483 is the 200 SMA weekly. That still becomes a possibility. But like your downside is very little in Meta. From 540 to 483, even though it sounds like a big drop, it's really not in comparative to like smaller caps and what those kind of moves are like. But obviously save money for that because it hasn't visited that since 2023 when it broke above it. So it's been a minute for it to get to that low moving average. Yep, NeoCloud's taking another beat down today. Space beat down. HIMS is up. Let's see. Trying to determine what's going to happen here. I thought this 2 hour looked like it was going to be bullish here for a second. So the thought process on this is, can HIMS be bullish enough to break and for it to sell, or am I going to have to close this covered call and then sell HIMS on my own, timing it? The worry part of it is if it drops, getting all that premium that I would have gained back. That's the hard part. 2 hour, like I said, looks like it wants to take off. 4 hour with some curling, daily with some curling, weekly curling down. So I think it's going to be a very minimal pop. And I'm trying to decide if I want trying to decide on the, but as this creeps up higher to make the selling, the covered call loses money. So it's a catch-22 to it all. And I wouldn't even sell it all. I would just trim, but unfortunately, Robinhood doesn't allow a lot of that, like customization of like rolling certain amounts and all that. So they make it a little difficult. Let's see. What else are you guys looking at? No, I think those companies can still get beat up. Just depends on your time horizon. Like I always think 200 weeklies. Where are those? And that's where they could go. So you're at 12, and I would say it could go to like this 695, 8. Companies go below those, you know. So I always look at those to see where it could drop. So filling that gap down to 650 isn't out of the question during a bad time. I don't know about this $2 one. That kind of seems ridiculous. Before it became what it is today, really, the company. But the 200 weekly is not out of the question. So keep that in mind. That's what I'm always referred to as my bear case kind of numbers is where's that 200 weekly? Because you have to have the mindset if the stock went there. For me, like with HIMS, right, 200 weekly is 23. Obviously, we have this gap fill back down to 1589. That would suck, but I would just take it as an opportunity. We already trimmed a good chunk of them. I would just get to rebuy that chunk I did trim at this level. For example, my other big position is SoFi. That's 1275. Okay, so I've had this mindset, and with our trend line, that we could hit this down here. At the time it was like 12, 13, and then it keeps moving up with the trend line. So if it loses the trend line, then 1273. If it keeps the trend line, then we're 14's the bottom. But just right now, you guys should be looking at your bear cases. And I just keep an eye on my bear cases at all times. Like ASTS, we knew during this drop that the bear case for us really was 45. In this drop, I didn't think the big drop was happening because of like how low this RSI got and everything. But 3200 weekly is sitting right here at this gap fill. So that becomes a possibility, 200 SMA weekly. So just got to keep that in mind. Okay. Yeah, it feels like a bull trap. It felt like they wanted people to jump in on this, and it just wasn't the time to jump in. But I think, man, SoFi is just toying with me, and HIMS, because they're my two big positions. Those are really the only ones I can trim and raise capital, because I don't have a whole lot of shares of anything else. I have a decent, but HIMS and SoFi are by far my largest positions. And it's whether or not I want to trim any more of those or be happy with the cash I have to make the moves. I want to get your guys' opinions, thoughts on your HIMS and while I'm looking at it. Your HIMS and SoFi right now. I'm bullish on them. I just trying to see if I can time it a little bit better. I know I had some people on social media reach out saying they bought some on that dip yesterday. Let's see. Nothing, no moves made today on it. Because it's coming up to these moving averages. Now we're going to have to battle this moving average. Or we're just going to come down to this bottom band, 25. Just really don't want that gap fill. The volume, though, yesterday on HIMS was low. Like, it keeps getting lower as this is dropping. So I kind of like that. Where, like, SoFi, for example, again, still low volume, right? I'm trying to find one that had big volume. Probably Cypher. Yeah, big volume, right? Don't love that for Cypher. Again, we have a CSP for 15, and it's going to be fine, but short term, it just kind of sucked. More where I had to be more defensive, but SoFi and HIMS seems like I don't have to be as defensive. So we're going to see. I did trim HIMS already, but I still have a lot. I still have 6,000 shares of HIMS. It's my biggest position. I think, yeah. Yeah, I have covered calls on SoFi, and I have cover calls on everything in my portfolio except ASTS, which I thought about doing and just being happy with it, really, and just, again, it gives me more capital. But I thought that, again, ASTS could bounce and give me another opportunity. What's the weekly? Bearish. Daily. 4 hour. Bearish. 2 hour bearish. Let's see. I might do it just to raise some capital and just be good with it. To raise capital, I would go out to, I'm still going to stick with September 18th. And I'm going to go to 85. It's not a green day, but I have a hard time believing we're going to get too many green opportunities right this second to place it. And right now, it's just raising some cash. Different mindset. If you're happy with your selling price, that's all that matters. It's a little bit of cash, not a whole lot of cash. Because I think I can only do 2 contracts. But again, this is not, we're still in the top half of the band. I'm not getting a green aspect. That's the only part. It doesn't check the list. If we were down here at 50s, I wouldn't do it, right? But we're still on the top half. I just want to see, can we get a 2 hour bounce, fill the gap, and go up? Yeah, wait, I'll hold off. It's only, for me and my account would be $200, not raising a whole lot of cash. I can just use, I can use margin if I really needed the extra $200. Yeah, agreed. I agree. That's a good way to think of it, Ella. We do have a lot of cash raised. But it was also, if we did get a rally, instead of having to wait for September 18th, I could actually trim or sell if it got back up here. Because we're at the bottom half of the band. When people are starting to buy, you should probably start thinking about closing your covered call. I wish, again, I wasn't yesterday traveling because I would have been able to pay attention a little bit more to all this. It sucked. Obviously. Would have made some moves, but it's all good. Always another day. Yeah, this is the 618 Fibonacci right here. Buyers. 6-1 and then liquidation. So this is kind of playing out textbook right here. I'm good, again, with them selling. I just worry that it's going to go up, and by the time the covered call actually happens, it won't get liquidated. It'll fall back under, which wouldn't be ideal, but it's possible. We're just going to keep collecting premium in the meantime while we figure it out. SoFi, this big wick, I don't love that, but this did bounce up. That's good. A little bit of a mix. Okay, we can look at other things other than what I got going on. What else you guys got? Let's see. Where's our VIX? Who's big green today? Prime, healthcare, looks like. Marvel with the big bounce. I know there's a guy talked to on X a bunch. He's big on Marvel. He's been loading up right now. But we're at the top of the band. Not interested. Again, I want bottom band 30 RSIs. So I can go down a whole 900 sheet watch list. I don't know if there's a whole lot there. Wi-Fi, maybe. Yeah, if you want to grab another retail darling. Again, I haven't done a whole lot of research. I wasn't doing it on my trip, but it is one that I will be doing. Big red day, getting close to the bottom band, 38 RSI. So that technically is a bullish divergence. You're at the same bottom that this was, yet the RSI is higher. So that's good, which would probably give it the divergence to fill this gap back up to 26. Don't saying that it's happening tomorrow, but just in general, it will. Nibius taking a beat down. That's the cipher leveraged. What else? People were talking about UMAC. Don't know why that's on there. Gap fill. Okay. but still top band. Like I'm looking for bottom band, low RSI. What is that? Wolf. Wolf is just entering the bottom band at the 200 daily SMA, but not. We're still at 46 RSI. I guess I can go to my screener. This is easier. Huh? That's way easier. Filter. Diamond alerts. RSI below 30. GameStop app, which I know there's been a pretty big group pushing app right now. Bottom to the top. We'll put these labels out there. They got a price target cut from Wells Fargo. Let's see what these be looking like. Weekly. If you're not sure on adding, like, take a look at the weekly. They're not really bullish on the weekly too much, or close to like resetting, like this white line getting inside this green, then hold off. I don't see volume increasing on app. So as of right now, flow did increase. That's good. I don't see a huge rush into this. They can always make an announcement randomly and it changes the whole thing, but as of right now, not a huge rush. 30 RSI though. So there's not too many companies, as you can see, that are under a 30 RSI. Under a 40 RSI, there's a fairly good chunk, with Wi-Fi taking the biggest loser of today, being under a 40 RSI, Cypher under a 40 RSI, but again, we already have a 15 CSP, so it's still above 15, so there's nothing to do there. TE is one of the top ones that I do want to get back into, like we had and made money on the previous time. So keeping an eye on that one. We are on the 200 weekly SMA. Bottom half of the band, RSI is 38. Let's see. Was hoping to see more curling. Okay, 30 minutes trying, but took a big old nosedive on the 30-minute candle. Fill it back. They clearly made it a clear sign that this company is going to benefit greatly. So I do think that this is a company that you can buy and hold longer term as well. So I will definitely be buying more TE. Right. What other? You guys can drop any names. I've got Nibius cover calls. I'm up 57%, holding for 7 days. Should I wait for 80% or close it? Nibius. Looks like it wants to go for that gap fill. As of right now, we're below the 50. 195. It looks like it wants to go close, at least. Let's see, Nibius on here. What do we say the gap was? 195, which you do have your 199 support. You're currently sitting on these 3 wicks of support. We're getting our trim on the daily. Volume decreasing, flow decreasing. Flow on the weekly is trying to come back. I think you, what is yours? Hold on. 300? I have a hard time thinking this thing's going to power back to 300 in the next 7 days. So if you, what would you do other than, like, if you were to close that, would you set something else on it, or you just wait for it to go back up? Because no matter what, then if you're just going to wait for it to go back up, no matter what, in the next 7 days, if it got to 300, like I said, I don't think that's the case. It would have to. I mean, that'd be a 37% run from where it is. But I don't know. I don't think so. I think you're good. If we can reclaim the 50, but as of right now, you're right here at this gap fill. Like, let it go fill. At least 208 is the middle of the band. Like, maybe that's going to act as support. The 200 mental number is going to act like support. So, I mean, profit's always good, but for me right now, like I'm saying, like I rather hold things and let things get called away. Personally, especially with your down, like all the moving averages say this thing will get yanked down. So even if you didn't want it to get called away, all I'm saying is that you could roll, keep it at a 300 strike, roll to October, and like by then the stock will fall back down again and you'll be able to keep all the premium again. Just kind of like my thought process on these. If I didn't want it to get called away, I would just end up rolling them to October if they expire in September. So over 918. Oh, okay. You held it for 7 days. Got it. So 918. You're in the same boat as me. There's a couple I have like that. But nothing is telling me, like the 2-hour time frame, right? Like looking at this doesn't look bullish at all on the 2-hour time frame. So nothing on the shorter time frame is telling me the bounce, right? So to me, I don't see a reason. I don't see a short-term bounce coming. I've never heard someone tell me cool when I told them their stock isn't going to bounce. Oracle Weekly. I lost all my trend lines. What the heck? Nope. Where'd the trend line go? Are you talking about here? I lost my chart. It's not on here either, huh? Let me go back to the daily. Let's see, weekly, Oracle. Flow, volume, curling, rejecting. Weeklies take a little bit longer. Let's skip to the daily. Daily loss, curling down. Here, flow down. 2-hour. I don't want to say never, but I don't see a 2-hour. I mean, I do see a little bit curl, but The volume's not increasing, the flow's not increasing, the RSI is still pointing down. Our momentum is there, curling action slightly. 4 hour, definitely not. Daily is just becoming bearish. And then, which the daily is going to lead where the weekly is going to go. So I don't think so. I don't think it's ready for the break. It doesn't mean that the drop is far, but because we are already at like here's your weekly moving averages, right? You're below all the moving averages. So yes, this is the time to when you would be buying Oracle, loading the boat. RSI preferably lower on the daily time frame, below all your 200 weeklies and 50 weeklies and all that for the long-term setup. They say buy great companies under the 200 weekly moving average. If you do that, you're pretty much bound to win all the time. The part that I'm trying to hold myself to more is this drop to here or down to here. Okay. Just rather protect myself right now than risk on right now. So 2.5% drop, sure, not that bad, right? To the 50. It is a 8% drop from here down to the 200. From here to the 200 weekly weighted is a 20% drop. And then 200 weekly, which would be a 28% drop. And we'd fill all these gaps. And there's a gap there. Just go. I don't think this is the final. I don't think this is the top. I don't think we're there. But I do think we are fairly close. Look. Deep value. Where is it? Buyers. Okay. So if this was lined up the way I think it's going to go, I think you're going to get up to 800. Okay, if you go perfectly to 800, the SPY gets to 800, okay, which would be 8,000. That would put your DCA, which would be your golden Fibonacci, spot on with 600 right at the gap fill, okay? And then we'd get our buyers and liquidation zone right below this 200 weekly SMA, 200 weekly weighted moving average. So, and there's the 800 like mental number for people for the SPY to hit. So I do think that we can get there. That's why I'm like not trying to panic sell on anything. I think we can get there. We have cash built up. But as we approach this 800, I think it'll be time to offload a lot of things, take what you have, build up more cash, see where the VIX is at that point. But it kind of just is lining up perfectly with how like the chart itself and gap fills are right here. The mental number of 600, and then your bottom liquidation being fairly close to the 500 zone. Again, it hits these moving averages, so don't call it impossible. Just April 2025, we hit this 200 weekly weighted, which would be 615, which would be a 20% drop. Okay, we went below the 200 weekly SMA in 2020. Okay, we touched it in 2018. We touched it in 2016. We hit the other one in 2015. Okay, and then we were 2011 and obviously the 2008 section. So it's not impossible, and when you get really far away from these is when you just need to be a little bit more protective. That's all. I just want you guys to realize that sometimes the risk is just not worth the reward. And if you just hold out, right, 3 months of your life, not a lot of time, 3 months of your life, holding a good chunk of cash, right, the 25, 30%, maybe 40% cash is worth it for that 3 months. First of all, your cash in your account is still earning interest, so it's not like you're doing anything. It's just sitting there in a savings account, high yield savings account ultimately, right? paying you interest. So it's just as if you set money aside for whatever you wanted to buy. Like, it's the same thing, right? You still have a good chunk of money in the market. But when this opportunity presents itself, you will be thinking that you have so much cash. And this is where generational like wealth and opportunities are built. Okay, these 200 weeklies. Okay, which if the SPY drops there, you already know your individual stocks are way lower, right? Well, where was April 2025 for a lot of your stocks, right? I don't know. Nibius. April 2025, where was your stock, right? April, August, June, April. Oh, Nibius was $21. Anybody want that opportunity again? Not saying it's going to get to 21 now, but it's going to come down to 75. Anybody down for 75? Anybody down for 100? Right? So I rather have those opportunities. Anything that's close to these moving averages already are going to be the ones that hold on fairly well. The ones that are far extended from these are going to be the ones that have the harder drop. So this is why you need to look where this bear case is. Okay? Same way, right? It was way up here, and then it found all the way down here, and then it still found more downside. Doesn't mean this is the bottom, but this is just where you should be interested more in buying a company than buying it way up here. Okay? That's just one example. We can go to pretty much every chart and look at April 2025 on everything, but that was just the most recent time that the SPY was even at our 200 weekly moving averages. Right? SPY. When was it at the... I mean, man. Everyone wishes they bought the bottom of 2022. Right? That would have been this one. I think that's when Meta was $95. $85. 2022. Okay. Well, Meta was, yeah, somewhere in the 90s. Below all these moving averages. Okay. Which Meta's not far. 483. It's not far. So, good job. Meta's green. Good job, Miguel. Yep, these are taking beatings. Let's see if we can get... Cypher bullish divergence. Yes. We have officially made a new low, yet the RSI is higher. So, yes. I will expect that we will be given an opportunity to get out of Cypher on a bounce, and then the actual correction will bring it down. So, just going to hold off. Sounds good, Miguel. Keep it up. ONDS, we got out of, looking to get back into it, but still RSI 50. Looking like, when you guys are running the wheel, and not everyone's running the wheel, but if you are running the wheel, this is where the patience in the trading doesn't have to happen every day. Okay? I don't have to trade every day. I can look every day. Doesn't mean that there's a trade to be made every day. SMR holding slightly green, still inside of our wedge. Like, it's bouncing off of our wedge points every time. So we just set covered calls. I don't know what our covered calls are at right now. Happy to take a look. So if you guys, here, I'll bring mine over. Oops. So Cypher CSP is the only one I have. 45% down. Again, I did 5 contracts. For me, that's small. It's a starting position, 500 shares. Right? HIM's covered calls, 44%. IREN's at 52%. SMR's at 73%. SoFi's at 22%. Archer's at 38%. VIX calls are down, but I have until October for a spike in the VIX. And then we have Cypher calls for January, ONDS call for January. And I use this with half the premium I got from Cypher. And I use this for not even half the premium I got for ONDS. So these are just house money call options. So I'm just kind of sitting in them for a bounce recovery, whatever. But again, the only one I don't have covered calls on ASTS or ASTX. Just holding off. Think that they have opportunity to go higher. So right now, just kind of, and it really protected me for the downfall yesterday. Our account wasn't down an incredible amount. I don't know how you guys all did, but ONDS is not a good time. Again, ONDS RSI is 50, and we are not near the bottom half of this band. Right? We want to be bottom half of the band, low RSI. If I put the wheel table on there, right? This should say at least CSP, and 40 RSI I think is the minimum for that to kind of happen. TE probably has it. See how this says 37, -5, lower CSP? That means I can make the CSP trade. Okay. Again, I'd be looking for, I want to get closer to 4 for me to start doing it. I am going to go and use that premium to buy some probably leaps on it too to capitalize a little bit more. But this is what I want to see, right? Low RSI, below 40 at least. Closer to 30, the better. Bottom band, near these 200 weeklies. Or at least understanding if I did some, where's the 200 weeklies? Because I need to be prepared for that, just like here, right? If ONDS, if the market goes bear, ONDS can see 3s and 4s. Do I think it happens? I really hope not, because I want to keep trading it inside this wedge, right? We sold ours, did a $9 covered call. It sold at 9.31 was my break even, and now I'm waiting to get back into it. Okay. But yeah. Yep. And I think that's what that was my initial plan for Cypher, was like, okay, I'm going to get it for, I'll pull up what my thing is. I'm going to get it for 15, and then I think my assigned price, is 13.82 would be my first 500 shares. So when we get to that gap fill of 14, that RSI should be pretty close to 30, and I'll be looking to do more covered or CSPs and then buy more leaps to average down. Right? But there's no need for me to do anything, right? We have a 15 CSP and the stock is 14.92, right? We're just at our, like, it just went down 20% in 2 days, and it's just now a slight chance that we even get these shares. A slight chance. Right? Sorry, I made breakfast and I haven't eaten any of it. Yeah, I plan on that gap fill and doing CSPs to add more January calls. The gap fill he's talking about, guys, is right here. Bottom band, that RSI sitting comfortably, still bullish. That's good. Right? So, yeah, I want that gap fill. I'm going to make it a little bit more adamant to remind me of this gap fill. Yeah, I want that gap fill. Then we probably are going to get this little bounce up to whatever this little corner is. See if we can break this trend line. If we can't break the trend line, we will reject right here at 16s. And then we'll go down further. So we'll look for this. We'll close in here, which are, since more time has gone by and it's above 15, our other CSP will be profitable. We will close both of them. Our leap should now, with the dollar cost average down, also be profitable again, and then we can go ahead and close. And close the whole trade out for profitable. So that's kind of the plan. I think Iran, people were talking about 36, 39 was like the first kind of support, which is the middle of the band. Funny how that works. And then people are talking about 36, which is you're looking really at the bottom of this trend line support that we lost, all right, and then we bounced right back to it and broke. So we got to the top half of this band. We set cover calls. The RSI got close enough and the top half of the band. I was like, okay, let's play more defensive. Let's just take what the world has given us and make something. Pull back. Okay. Keep it simple, guys. Like, that's with the wheel right now and defense and all that. I'm just keeping it simple. I as much as I would love to say things are just going to get there and you can sell it, right now I am playing the premium game. Just give me what I can and I'll be happy. Yeah. Agree. Yeah, it's okay. So the market turned. Health is still holding. SoFi is still holding. So the two big holdings we have are holding. That's good. Yay, go us. Celsius doing its thing. I again wish I was in this. I'm not in this. RSI is back to 60 though, so this is not the time to go. Okay. See how RSI got to 31 and then boom, bounce right back. Again, closer to 30 the better. And that's when you look to buy or trim or not trim or CSP. So just keep an eye on that, guys, for that. Here's your Navitas. Still at 44. So again, I think this gap fill is going to happen. Either one of these. And that's when I'll be looking for Navitas again. For me. If you get any green moment, I mean, yeah, you could set cover calls again. Let's see. What other ones you guys looking at? ASTS with this shorter gap up. This is going to be a nice one to get into to fill at least the 70 gap. When the time's right. Time's not right yet, but I'm watching it. SoFi showing strength on a green day is a good sign. SoFi is weekly is bullish. I do still think this thing can get to 21. Is really where I do think it's going to get to. What's crazy is that, I don't know if you guys saw the rumor of SoFi's getting into the S&P in September. Oh, if that happens, I will scream. And the reason behind that, I'll look at Archer next, Cynthia, is SoFi. I don't know if you guys have realized the past couple times, but every time they have earnings, it's during the worst time. They give warnings every time there's some sort of macro news that's going to completely derail their good earnings. And now, when we kind of think that September, end of September or beginning of September or whatever, is going to be bad, right? Overall, bonds, midterms, oil, all that kind of stuff happening all at once right now. SoFi would be let into the S&P 500 in September. It just is a perfect story that SoFi is terrible at receiving bullish news. And if they are going to get bullish news, it's going to be a really bearish time. So they're really good at that. So I would expect it to do the same thing. I would love for it to get in there. I would be pumped if it can get into the S&P 500 this go around. I have at the money covered calls. So I'm selling my covered calls are $18. That means I'm selling them for $19.34, I think, is my break even when I, put the premium to the sale price. Which is near this top portion, and while time kind of carries on and bumpiness, whatever. So kind of just holding for me, and I still have some in my long-term, right, 2,500 shares in my long-term account that I'm not setting cover calls or doing anything with. So yeah. Again, you can protect yourself with some of them. You don't have to do all of it. You can do cover calls on half, and then see how things kind of go. So yeah. And as far as Archer goes, I think. What are you just want my general feedback on Archer, or do you have a specific scenario in your mind? What's going on? We have this gap. So we left the band, right? RSI got to 70, right? We were like, let's set some covered calls, which we did. But I think we need to go fill this gap, or at least see if we can hold this support right here at 590. And then I think we can carry forward. I think we're done with the 4s and low 5s. But filling this gap would be ideal. The good part with what you are seeing here, as this is going down, the volume is also going lower. So there's not a whole lot of sell-off taking place as far as volume goes. Let's go real quick to your weekly. Your weekly is bullish. Like anything with a weekly bullish right now, I'm like comfortable with. Like those ones, I'm like, yeah, nothing to even think about. It's either gonna get called away or I'm gonna get all my premium, right? One or the other. So I remain bullish on Archer. I do think that we could get back up to this top. So if you want to, I'll zoom out and I will hide the indicators real quick just so you can kind of see what these trend lines are talking about here. So trend line, bottom, bottom. Damien said it touched his bottom. I'm not in that kind of way. But it didn't touch the bottom trend line for me exactly, but he said it touched his trend line. But I see a touch here. 1, 2, 3. Didn't touch there, but it came really close. And then I drew this trend line, okay, from the top of this and here. And then that gave me the same angle for here, which was a touch here. And it was trying to break. And then that same angle for here. So the next pop can get us close to 9. I think a lot of people at this point for Archer, institutions have shooken pretty much everyone out of it. And it looks bullish to me. I think we just had to go fill that gap, unfortunately, because it created such a gap up on that news that recently came out that we just got to go fill that gap. Probably fill that gap and recapture it and keep moving. But as long as the weekly remains bullish, nothing to worry about. I had covered calls at, where is it? 9, because I own it for that. So I just set them all for 9, captured what I could, and yeah, looked to close at 80 plus. So. No, I don't think that the rate hike has a whole lot to do with anything. It's really right now we should be focusing on our bonds and oil. Oil is going to lead into the inflation data, and inflation is not good for the rate cut decision. And it's really people want rate cuts. The rate hike thing was already priced in at this point. So I don't think them saying we're not hiking rates is going to change anything, because they've already said it now twice. And they said we've held, the data looks good, the data's not worse. So now we need to start looking for more bullish things, but we need these bonds to continue to come down. Today's a good start, but we are far from where we were in, where was this? October 2025, March of 2026. We're under 5. And that's really where we need to be. We need to be under 5, at least, just to make people feel comfortable. So it's really on the bonds right now. It's Japan's bonds as well. These have just been, as you can see, increasing. But in order for them to do this, they gotta freaking sell our stuff, and it's kind of a shit show. The good news is what I see is a divergence, which is good. We are making highs, and this is making lows. That is a good thing. So some relief is possible. But not all divergences play out. Okay. But yeah, we need oil really. I mean, oil's going to be the big one. Oil for us drives inflation, even though oil's the strait is not how we get all of our oil. The world is how they get their oil, and their inflation causes our inflation, and there's a whole macro side of things. So yeah, you're also going to see the sell-off mainly happening in the NASDAQ because that is tech. SPY and the Dow are green. Mid caps are green. Tech is selling. Well, now it's bouncing. But in general, what we want to go look at is our sectors, right? So we have consumer staples, weekly, green. So right now, consumer staples is where money is going to float to. As times are tough in the world, the consumer staples are toothpaste, toilet paper, right? All the things that you buy no matter what the economy is doing, because I still need to, for lack of better words, I still need to wipe my ass. I still need to brush my teeth, right? So people buy Procter & Gamble. So consumer staples. I can pull up State Street sector ETF, I think. Sector tracker. Consumer staples. Wherever that is. There it is. Target. Is this by weight? So let's go by weight. So Walmart, Costco, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble are their top four, and then Philip Morris International. I don't know what that is. And Colgate. Look, there's Colgate, then there's Target. So these are your consumer staples. This is where money goes to when times are tough. Okay? Next one, let's go to consumer discretionaries. What do we got? Weekly, daily. Where's the weekly? That's a big wick. A lot of buyers stepped in to XLY. And then the big green one today is healthcare. Massive. But we are getting a little, at least there's no divergence, but we are 74 RSI. Not great. Don't love that. Monthly, bullish, healthcare. Daily. Good. Gap down. Okay. So let's go back. Healthcare. Oh, Moderna, right? Didn't they have a huge spike or something? Did they do a cut? What did Moderna do? Someone told me they were up 100% today. I don't know if that's real or if they did a rate cut or a split. How do I spell it? What is it? Moderna. What did I do? It's not even on there. Okay, they had a cancer research. So Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, United Health, AbbVie. So these will be their top holdings. Johnson & Johnson, big day today. Do I have Johnson & Johnson? Yeah, okay. That must not be today. No. But they have a big gap down all the way to the 200. And we got bearish. So yeah, we want to look at those sectors and get an idea of who is about to flip and what sectors are about to run and what sectors are about to pull back. Similar to what you're kind of seeing with the tech side of things. Let me just go to the easy ones real quick. So daily is bullish, weekly is bullish. Okay, XLY, weekly is bullish, daily remains bullish. XLV, bullish but fairly elevated. We're looking for the low RSI bouncing. Okay. Just depends on. I think that the next correction is more of a correction that affects everything, so I'm raising more cash. Now, if we were something like, we're not so far extended, like in these like zones, right, where we're already like bouncing a bunch and we're already close. I don't know. I'm just not too worried about the rotation and just kind of, or like not too worried about raising so much cash. But when we are super extended, 30% drop extended, right, I worry a little bit more about just having cash. I definitely think the correction is this year. I think 2027 is the fruitful year because the correction happens this year. And I rather be wrong and all my things get called away, I make the money and I have cash and I can get back in if the signs start going away. But there's a lot of people other than just me that are seeing a lot of these signs. Doesn't mean that there's not some small trades, take profits quick, get the trade in, get the trade out, and be good. But just you can get caught off guard, right? Everyone was happy, and then all of a sudden Monday opened, and apparently no one was happy again. Bearish on industrial. Tech isn't bearish yet. Hopefully we can just fill this gap without this flipping bearish. We'll see. Consume energy. What was it? Was industrial was the one I thought was about to start. Where's industrial? Industrial. Okay, bearish on the daily. No, which one was it? There was a company that I was like, "Ooh, we need to rotate into that one." Oh, here it is. Communication services, which I think is actually Meta. Oh, it's XLC. Flipping bullish on the weekly right now. And then the daily time frame, 53. Again, it's mainly you're going to go look at these stocks, but I think that this one is the most potential as far as weekly time frame just flipping, XLC. So that it would be, yeah, the one that's done the worst this year. Makes sense. Getting ready to kind of, money's going to rotate, right? So by weight, Meta, Google, AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Netflix. I'd stay away from Disney. App is in there, right? So these are the ones we probably got to start looking at too, which we talked about App a little bit, that it's close. It's just not there yet. Netflix looked like it has made its turn. Verizon, AT&T, those are going to be the safe haven, easy wheels to do. And then obviously you have your megas, which are going to be your Meta and Google for this sector, which has been the most beat down sector. So. Yeah, so like I said, I set at the money covered calls 30 days out or October, whatever you want to do in mine. I own HIMS for just under 29 on the remaining shares. I own SoFi. Well, when I set these, it was 18. So I set these at the money. HIMS at the money. I own IREN up there on these set of shares. So I set it at my cost basis. I set this at my cost basis. SMR at my cost basis, and just collecting premium. And it either sells for what I bought it for, but I still make 10% in the premium or whatever the percentage was. So I'm good with it. It's a winning trade. There's nothing to complain about. That's just me. That's how I raised a chunk of cash. I didn't raise all my cash. Raise all my cash that way. I did trim a chunk of my positions, right? We sold 2,500 shares of HIMS. I sold half of my SoFi. Well, half of my non-long-term SoFi. I sold half. Um, so either way, like I raised cash doing that. And just remember, you can always get back into companies. They're always going to be there. Even though it might run up, it's going to come back down, right? Don't FOMO. Just wait. It'll give you another opportunity. So that's kind of my mindset is like I can just get back into these stocks if I really want to when the time is right. Because maybe the correction doesn't come, but the correction comes a month, 2 months later. The opportunity is going to be there to buy it again. So don't get so caught up in you're like in the moment. Like I realized while on vacation, even though like I wish I was able to do things yesterday, like with the wheel strategy, I had zero concern of what the heck was happening in the market. I'm like, no matter what, I'm making money. By the time I come back, whether the account is down or up, but as far as collecting gains, by the 18th of September, right, there's going to be money in the account. I'm either going to own the shares or I'm not going to own the shares, but either way, we're making money. I didn't have to think, didn't have to look at anything. Really, I just, like, I saw just when I was going to bed, right, take a look. Cool, market was green. Until, obviously, Monday. So I'm just not getting so caught up in the everyday noise. And I really want to start getting that across and not being so, like, reading each freaking headline. Like, every headline at this point, I think that's Trump's plan, is to make everyone numb to his headlines, which it's working, right? Like, he says things and people react, and then all of a sudden it goes right back, like, in the same day, because everyone's numb to it at this point. Trying to see if anybody posted anything. U.S. Treasury announcement, it will double the size long-term U.S. government debt buybacks following the rapid surge in the U.S. Treasury yields. Repurchasing $2 billion will now be increased to at least $4 billion. The U.S. Treasury said the move is to intend to provide liquidity support for bonds maturing in 10 to 30 years as total U.S. debt nears $40 trillion. There is the intervention we have been calling for. Wow. So yeah, they're just buying back. They're trying to... Everything we're concerned for, they are concerned for as well. They're going to do everything they possibly can to not let that get out of hand. But they can only do so much. This man needs to figure out the war situation. It's what he needs to figure out. What's oil doing? This is what I don't like to see. Is that it's holding this trend line. We're at the bottom support. We're breaking out of the downtrend. Well, the small downtrend. It was very small. This is the bigger downtrend, I guess. Let me just change this. Like, we are at the decision point, people. We need to decide what is happening today or tomorrow. Are you going to figure out something, or are we going to pop through and oil is going to go higher and then we're going to have our correction? What is happening? Oh, that's a weekly. Okay, so we have this week or next week pretty much for a decision to be made. Daily remains bullish as of right now. Bullish higher. So yeah, oil we need to figure this out. So like as a kid growing up, I was a Nike guy. I always wore Nikes, bought Nikes, and now I don't buy Nikes. Their old CEO really fucked them bad. Do I have a freaking... Nope, not that. Look, you even lost the 300 monthly SMA. That is insane. So you lost the 300 monthly. Okay. The RSI has never been this low. They got to do something different in the company. As of right now, for me, I'm not a fan of it. Like I said, the old CEO really fucked them. And the reason he fucked them is because he thought he could basically do Tesla, where like direct to consumer Nike, everyone will order Nike from us, and we're going to pull all of our shoes off of the shelves from these retail stores. And that clearly didn't work. And basically that allowed Hoka's to come onto the shelves, that allowed Brooks to come onto the shelves, that allowed for Clouds, I think is the name, to come onto the shelves. And now they are taking market share from Nike. Now, obviously, those companies don't have the same as far as like brand ambassador, athletes, and everything like that, but that is still retail. People are just not going out there and saying, I got to have Nikes, except obviously you see in like trade shows and people going and doing that aftermarket selling. But right now, I don't see anything that's makes me want to just jump in, especially like while this has been going down, volume has been increasing. I want to see volume while this is going down decreasing. So once we can get some lower volume, like the same way this was going up, right, and the volume got lower, I want to see that going down and the volume going lower, because that tells me that there's an actual like sell off and people are actually, but people still have plenty of selling volume happening, taking place here. But I do think like now you're officially under like the 200 weeklies and everything like that. So I don't think the bottom's far. I just think that we need to break. It needs to break the downtrend. It has to break this downtrend. So draw that line. Basically, just don't draw it from the peak. Draw it from the one after the peak on the monthly. Looks like. But yeah, I needed to break this downtrend. I don't want to keep catching. I don't want to catch this falling knife, even though I think the bottom is near. Obviously, RSI is super low, but it's not like it's a fast mover by any means. It's not going to have 20% days back to back and just get your money through like skyrocketing unless they completely make a shift in the business. Let's see, anybody else? Tem still holding strong. Mining companies, gold's. I was waiting for gold to come fill that gap. I don't know if it is going to fill that gap right now, but yeah, come back. Hit this 200, and then I thought it was going to come retest this 50. Gap fill, maybe like a quick little dip down, reclaim the 50. That's what I want to buy. We'll buy the mining companies because they're cheaper and easier. But gold just flipped a weekly, possibly bullish, so weekly, even though it flips bullish this week, doesn't mean next week isn't bearish to like buy it and then it goes up and continues rallying. There's so much like time within a week, especially you can see daily is 70, right? So now we should see a sell-off happen, reset on the daily. That's your buy for the weekly time frame. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense to you guys with the whole like weekly getting bullish? Now look at the daily, or do you want me to go over that again? Okay. So when I'm looking at this weekly, okay, I see that it's bullish. And some people would say, okay, well, it flipped bullish and I'm going to buy it now. That's not what you do, okay? Because the weekly is bullish, you now want to look for a better entry point, okay? Knowing that the longer term, the weekly, is bullish. So you should have a longer term, right, run. The stock should run for a longer term, but doesn't mean that the second it flipped bullish, it's the best entry point for the weekly time frame. So what I do is I go to the daily, okay? So all I'm doing on the weekly is acknowledging that the higher time frame is bullish. That's a good thing, right? So now I want to go to daily, and I see that the daily is a 70 RSI. Well, we don't like to buy 70 RSI timing. right? That's not what we do. We like to buy near here. Okay. So all I'm doing is saying, okay, based on the daily time frame being up at 70, it's not a good time to buy. But just because the daily time frame pulls back to 40 RSI or whatever it's going to pull back to, doesn't mean that the weekly is now bearish. Because the weekly has so much price movement, right? One day a stock can go from 70 RSI to a 40 RSI, and then by the end of the week the stock is back up and nothing changes to that weekly time frame because so much price action can take place inside of one weekly candle. So all I'm doing is saying, okay, the weekly's bullish, so now I want to look on the daily time frame for the best entry. So now I'm just going to wait for this RSI to get lower, wait for the MACD to become bullish, and that's all I'm doing. Same thing where, like, right now, you can do it for anything, right? When this is getting close to selling, you can flip to the 2 hour, okay? And you want to see, okay, the 2 hour just became bullish. We still have a little bit more upside. It's not bearish yet, right? If I was looking to sell because the daily was high, you can look to the 2 hour and see, hey, what's going on here? I can tell you what's going on here. Bearish divergence is taking place. Okay, so gold is going to take a dip. Stock going up, RSI is going down. Okay, bearish divergence. Most likely, like we just talked about, it is going to reject this 200. It might peak above slightly, but overall, going to reject, come down, hit this 50-day / possibly just fill this gap right here, and then I would think it's going to bounce. And we're going to continue higher. Okay? So just because the weekly says to buy it right this second, or turned bullish right this second, doesn't mean right this second. Okay? Now you flip to the daily and go take a look. Okay? We can do it on pretty much anything. It works the same way. SMR holding on, that's good. Well, we can do SoFi. SoFi will be a great example. Look at SoFi, okay? Let me take these. I don't even need all that. I can just do it with the RSI. And so, for example, right, I'm going to draw a line where SoFi went bullish on the weekly time frame. So you can understand, okay, this is when it flipped bullish. Okay? So, bullish, flipped. Just going based solely off the MACD, just so you can see. Right? The weekly time frame went bullish here. So let's go to the daily time frame. Okay? So this is Monday, so that means the week ended on Friday the 12th. Okay. See how this ran up and the weekly time frame was becoming bullish and now this is down? Well, the RSI is low here, or like semi-low. It's not 70, right? So you could look to start entering because we are on the bottom half here. But if the RSI was up here and the MACD flipped bullish, right, I wouldn't buy here. I would have waited for this opportunity to buy. Hopefully that helps. Okay. So weekly flips doesn't mean it's the best time to buy. Go to your daily. If the RSI is lower, right, and the daily then flips bullish, right, that's when you can start looking to buy and capture this weekly bullishness. See, there's more days in a week, so here's your bullishness. The weekly is still bullish, right? Right here. Weekly is still bullish, yet you could have waited for this dip to buy. The weekly is still bullish here, and you can recapture. Okay? So weekly tells you the bigger story. Daily allows you to capture the chapter inside the story. Ooh, just came up with that. I think that works. I don't know. So yeah, what else do you guys want to go over? I just want these to kind of flip. What else? Oh, I'm not looking forward to hopping on work calls later. It was too nice. Someone says Cipher 11. Yeah, I don't think Cipher 11's out of the question. I think I planned on Cipher potentially like 11's there. I think I planned on Cipher being 10 possibly. Yeah, 1021. I'll take 11. I just thought that was like, this is my bear case, right? Buy some at 13, get some at 11, right? Dollar cost down if it gets there. So yeah, I don't think that's out of the question. He thinks 11 to 22, then 7. Okay, so yeah, he thinks the same thing. Down, back up, down. And we'll get out on the pops. Works with me. All right. What else did you guys want to go over? How was everyone's week last week? Would I miss anything crazy? Just the bond story is like what everyone is talking about, it looks like. I want ONDS, but it's just not time. 2 hours, bearish. Okay, so here's another example, right? The daily got up here to 65. Okay. Here's the top. Now you want to go to the 2 hour and go see what that's like. Okay. The 2 hour was almost 80 RSI. Looking at the shorter term. Okay. Okay. And then we saw the 2 hour losing it. Right? So you can get out sooner than what the daily would tell you. So if I'm thinking about exiting, I'll look in the smaller time frame. If I'm looking about going long, I look at the higher time frame. Right? You just kind of, if you need to react sooner, you drop down your time frame based off of another time frame. It depends. I would take a look more at where the RSI is at that time. Is there one that you're talking about? Is it Navitas or something? So a couple things to kind of think of, send your message to, but one, again, you have to be willing to sell it for the price that you choose. So as long as you're okay with that, obviously, right? We got to follow the main guidelines of wanting to set covered calls. But I will set them if I become bearish or I see more downside. But I won't set it like as aggressive. But the other thing, meaning like ASTS drops right now and I'm like, oh, there's some more downside to 45. I'm not going to set it at 50 because I think it's going to go down that far. I'm still going to set it at like 80 and just collect a little bit of money. So I would be looking at RSI, right? So if RSI gets in our buy zones, right, 40 or lower, I'm not really, you're too late to the party, right? Because at any point now that you've entered a buy zone and people are thinking about buying into the company is not when we should be thinking of really setting covered calls or setting ceilings on our stocks, because this is when we are looking for buyers to start stepping in, right? So I wouldn't be looking to de-risk when the company has already kind of de-risked from the RSI basics. You're still holding the 200-day moving average, so that's a good sign. The weekly, you're on the weekly 1227. So really the 1227, if you lost that, then yes, I would see more downside to the bottom band, which would be 10 right now. But with RSI's low, then no, I wouldn't be looking to just set covered calls. But like ASTS, right? It's been a couple red days. Okay, we're at 46 now. Let me find one that is red days and not at that level. Nokia 50. That's like questionable, right? You're on the middle ground. So you still have some downside to get to 40. So yeah, you could still set covered calls here for whatever $11 or something and capture some upside or and de-risk yourself a little bit. But like I was saying, like Navitas, I don't know, 46. You're just kind of closer to the buy zone of where people want to buy. 40 to 30, people are like buying stocks on the RSI. So that's my main thing. I just kind of keep an eye on that and where that is. So same way on SoFi, right? We got up here in the 50s, 60s. I was like, let me just set covered calls. When you're down here in the 35s, I'm not looking to set covered calls when we get to this like 42 zone because, like I said, you might have a drop, but quickly we can see buyers step in and get us right back. So take a look at the RSI, or if you're looking at the wheel table, it'll say what the RSI is. Archer went green. So things are happening. Things are flipping. That's good. Same thing. So ONDS, right? 53. Buyers are stepping in. Let's go take a look at 2-hour time frame. We have some curling on the 2-hour, right? You have a gap fill at 849. 50 days 827. Gap fill is the 846 zone. So like, man, I had it on ONDS, so I did do it when the RSI was up here. So that's why like when I have a hard time when we're in this like neutral zone heading this way. But again, it comes down to your mindset. If you're okay with selling. So for example, I don't know what you own ONDS for. Trade, sell calls, 30 days out. Like you could still set an 11, right? At 23 delta, play it fairly safe, or 35 delta if you want to play it a little less safe and still collect something, but you have to be willing to let these go. Right? If it was to get called away or roll, right? Manage it. Just know that like whatever you choose. So as long as you're okay with selling it at 10, raising cash or whatever it may be on September 18th, or just collecting the premium. I don't know how many you have, but if you had 1,000 shares, right, $400. Then you decide, is $400 worth it to me right now for raising capital, or is it better for me to actually just go ahead and look to maybe just sell the shares and then rebuy or do whatever later on, right? Same thing when I was talking about ASTS. Like I could do 2 contracts, but at the price I would do my strikes at 80, it would be $200. $200 isn't worth it for me to like cut myself off and not have the option to just sell the stock. So it wasn't worth just setting it to kind of de-risk a little bit for me. Like it wasn't worth it. Yeah. Well, I think the hardest part, I'll say in your situation, is that you had Navitas, right? And I don't know all the exact moves you did, but this downfall hurts, right? This downfall. So it's hard for you to want to or be willing to sell anything probably for Navitas at 15, right? That's just my assumption on how you're like feeling. And it would be hard for anybody. I'm not saying that it's just you, but as of right now, the weekly time frame, right, is no longer bullish or bearish. I can go take a look if there's any charts on Navitas as well for you. Any other charts, what people are seeing. Yeah, I get it. It's tough. Oh, man, now you got this guy all in on Navitas. We'll see how it goes. So you have another guy. He's bullish on Navitas. This seems really optimistic. 126 by the end of this year. I don't know if that happens. That seems a little crazy. Long, maybe he didn't do his timing right, but he said long term. That'll be interesting. Okay. I think we're all bullish on Navitas. I just don't think everything right now is super bullish. I don't see the major runs taking place. I don't see a whole lot of charts. 16 hours ago. What time frame are you on? Daily. So 10 support zone today with an extra geometry overall. Technicals, fundamental, strong buy, 16 soon. So he thinks 16, which would, I think, be near the top of our band again. Yeah. Which if you see 16, that's kind of weird. I mean, you're on support right now, so I don't, like I said, don't think. But this is the part where, like, yes, things can keep mooning, but again, you have to take wins off tables. Like RSI up here, 86, right? And then it was 20, and then it dropped back down to 14, right? And then it ran again. RSI got back above 70. It's covered calls or trim. And then RSI back to 57. And then it ran again. RSI back to 75. And then obviously dip. Like above this red line, there is a dip coming. Be ready, take advantage, and then it dips, and then it goes above the red line, it dipped again, above the red line, it dipped again, above or close to the red line, right here at 66, and then down, right? So above this red line is just caution, take profits, covered calls, set yourself up to make something. So when I see us get close to 60 is when I start thinking, hey, let's set some covered calls. When we get above 70, hey, let's set some covered calls. Okay. Yeah, and this is the part where I say, like, look how far extended, right, you get from your moving averages. 80% from the weekly ones. I don't know what you were from the daily ones. The 50 moving average was a 50% drop. 200-day was a 70% drop, right? So you have to look at the moving averages as understanding of how far a drop can go. You got to look at the RSI to see if you are kind of over the extreme oversold and taking profits. As much as we believe our companies can be the companies that just run and know and do a whole like do this, right? Just keep going and can hold fairly strong. It's tough, and this company looks like it went down. It's here, and then we could make its way down back down to 200, right? If it rejects this 50. So, as much as we think all of ours can moon, the likelihood of picking the one that's going to moon and nonstop moon and moon and moon for months is slim. You're better off being kind of defensive, taking the win, and going ahead and other covered calls to make something or trimming itself or 50-50, however you want to manage it. But it's hard to make up for that, right? It's hard to make up for that in any scenario, like wanting to do anything. Like, and I get it. It's tough. So there's nothing that's going to de-risk to that level of de-risking, right? And then if you were to just sell or get your account there, unless you just hold and set covered calls, super safe and just make something. But if you are so, in love tied to a company, it's a lot harder to do because you are so like hyper focused on this company getting back to, when it gets back to what I could have sold it for, that's when I'll sell. Well, the stock market and the stock itself does not give two shits about, getting back to where you would be comfortable selling, right? It's not going to do that. It doesn't care.
If you wait long enough, sure. But all that time you've waited, there's other money to be made as well. Same way Archer doesn't give two shits if it gets back to 9 for me. So I'm holding, I'm setting covered calls when I can, and that's it. Same thing you could do, right? You could set, I don't know what Navitas. You can go to Navitas right now. Trade, sell calls. Like, for example, if you wanted to, you can go out to January. I have January in my retirements on some stocks. But here's January. So January you could sell like a 23 if you wanted to raise capital, or a 20, right? And it'll give you more premium up front to buy the dip, but if you could consistently do it every month, that would generate more. But this generates more up front to do it. I don't know how many shares you have, but again, if you have 10, right, that'll give you $1,500. If you wanted to do your 23 at the 30 delta and you had 10, right, that'll give you $2,200 roughly. So this is another way. I did it in my retirement account. I set January covered calls because I didn't want to have to think about it. I wanted the cash in my retirement to buy whatever dip happens, and not worry about, having to set them again 30 days from now. So yeah, you could do it, go that route as well. What time is it? And make sure I am not late to work. Okay. Him still rallying. SoFi still holding. SoFi with the volume. What's the volume like? What are we doing? Would like the volume to pick up on SoFi. Hims is doing all right with volume. 2 hour. Yep. Dang it. Oh, man. Just the game plan that I sent out the other day was perfect, but I wasn't available to close yesterday on the covered call. Darn. It is what it is. Move on. All right. Because I wanted to close that CSP, or covered call, because that 2 hour looked like it wanted to freaking flip. Huge volume on this first 2 hour one. I'd expect it to reject now. And then we will break out. I think we are going to break out. So, any dip, we'll see. I'll watch it closer. I think I'm still positive on the... I don't know if I'm positive anymore, actually. Let's see. I still am positive. I could still take that. What are we positive here? So, this is the part where I could raise cash. Right? You guys can see. If I wanted to raise another chunk of cash, I could just get out of this, take that, basically make nothing, and then, but my Hims covered call will make me another 9, so I'll make 10 grand on the trade, and I'll raise a bunch of cash. Because I don't know, it's a 4 hour. It looks like it wants to frickin' pop. Hims is always making things tough. Wouldn't be mad at obviously closing cover call 10 grand and then set it again if I have to. Weekly time frame. It's close. This is the part. Look at it wants to. It's getting really close. Let me go to this one. This one has a little faster reaction time to things, so helps. Yeah, bearish. Bearish. Volume bearish. Daily. No, nothing yet. All right, holding. 2 hour though, probably bullish. About to be. Yep. There it is. Add. Yeah, that's probably smart. I don't know what. Let me see what I could do actually. Trim. I'm curious. I've never actually tried to roll closer. I don't know if I can. 239. Yeah, I'd have to roll it down to 26. I couldn't do that. Wouldn't make sense. It'd make more sense just to close the covered call and then sell the shares.
But the question is by September 18th, right? Is it stay above 29 or is it below 29? Because again, the cover call is going to pay a total of 24 grand, but as you guys saw, the total cash in that position is 175. So if it's below 29, I'll raise 24k in cash. If it's $15, right, my account would be half down, so I'd be down $90,000 in the position, right? If it went back down to half, 15, in that extreme pullback. So there's the catch-all kind of thing of kind of what I'm planning for. So I'm trying to read Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, hits one of your lows. Trying to see if there's any other news. Oh, well, let's go to a bull flow. Let's see what's kind of going on there. Let's see real quick. Alrighty, let's go to the calendar. Multi-map. QQQ looks like it wants to float up. Possibly in the next 2 days. The SPY does. QQQ doesn't have a whole lot of love on the tech stuff. Let me go to HIMS. 30. NVO to 50. 60, and then not a whole lot going on the rest of the week or next week. Decisions. SoFi, Hood and SoFi. SoFi 19, yep. Hood 100. PGY's there at their 20, and U is at the 15. Nibius, APLD, and IRN. APLD 25 next week. Nibius 250 this week is possible. Cypher doesn't have a whole lot going on. 1550. Huge rebound today. That's awesome. 41. So actually, let's take a look. Where's our cipher? Went down 22% there. That's good. Oh, man. HIMS is going to give me trouble. I don't know if he sent this after or whatever, but SoFi. 19, and we could float up to 20. That's why I'm like questioning closing these and actually selling shares instead of the premium. HIMS would have to get to 33 for me to make what I would make if it got called away, but SoFi would only have to get to 1934. I don't think I'm break even on SoFi on the covered calls. Wasn't this morning, obviously, but rallied a good chunk today. Anyone else? Closed, Hood, puts. 1.1 million on these HIMS $90 calls by December 2027. I doubt he's going to hold it all the way there. Bitcoin just hit 66. Looks like we got... Hope it's not a pump fake. Hope we just continue the rally. Let things run. I believe this type of chop will last for years because everything around us is changing rapidly. I'm getting old for long term. Meta, Moderna, CoreWeave. Just trying to see if anyone's got anything. HIMS. Ethereum reclaiming. Cipher, drop down, and then back up. Yeah. Like, overall, guys, the correction happens. As long as you have cash to take advantage, you're going to be fine. Some sort of cash to take advantage. I also think that everything will recover. So it's just being whether or not you think we can time this a little bit better or not is the question. But it looks like HIMS, this guy's thinking that HIMS is going to go back up to 40, then back to 34, then back to 50. Same kind of game plan we thought was going to happen already, so that's fine. Yeah, we're going to see. If this plays out, I'm happy because I will be given another opportunity for it. And not all sectors die off and pull back. So we saw last pullback, Apple was hitting all-time highs, and what was the other one? Apple and Coca-Cola were both hitting all-time highs during the last pullback when everyone else was crying. So not all stocks have to pull back. So we are okay with it. So when you guys ask me about these companies, just so you know, Bitcoin or crypto holding companies, all you got to, it has nothing to do with the company, right? It's all it is what is Ethereum doing? Because that's all this company is going to do, is what Ethereum does. So weekly bullish, bullish, bullish. Looks good. Where's your RSI 65 on the daily time frame? Let me go to here. Weekly 50, daily is 65. Top band. I mean, these bands are pretty tight. You're at the 200 weekly weighted moving average resistance at 20.55, then 23. Daily was about to go bearish and it held. Looks good. I would be interested more in setting probably covered calls as you're approaching 70 RSI and hitting resistance, probably looking for like that 23 covered call. 2 hour time frame, still bullish, 71 RSI. So yeah, I would definitely be thinking about covered calls here on that. Let's see. Space still down. SMR pumping. Cipher recovered fairly well. Gotcha. Yeah, the good part about that though is it probably at least paid you some premium to take advantage of some other stuff. But I would expect it 23 and then it kind of reject from there. And then it could like find a new bottom again, a higher low, for you to like come up here, reject, and then find support on one of these again. And then time will have gone by and then you'll be able to kind of set your close your cover calls or whatever. Open, good, Navitas. So tech is just struggling, but everything else is fine. That's why we have health, we have SoFi, which is there. HIMS and SoFi are like the tech versions of the finance and health. So like, I like that it's sector separate, but it is still tech related, opposed to just only being tech. BBAI sound still too high. Still too high. Zeta. 2 hour. Picture it's gonna reject. Don't think that holds. Just like this, like see how Zeta's got a pretty like red line and the moving averages are far down. Like raising cash, this would be one I'd be wanting to raise cash on. Covered call or trim. You do have this gap fill up to 36. So up to you on the trimming or covered calls, but I don't like how far away that is out of like all of them. So what else you guys got? I got to get to work meeting, but I can answer one or two more. I have a lot to catch up on. I might even be live Friday. We'll see. I'm happy to be back. It felt weird. But what's a good CC for Zeta? Then I have a CC on it, but it's safe one. Sold 100 shares already, which is 1/3 of my position. If I was doing Zeta cover call, I hate the Zeta chain one. Why is that default? That's like, come on, guys. No, that's annoying. A $5 jump. It's really annoying. So if I was doing like what I'm doing to raise capital, right, I would do at the money, which would be 30. And that would pay me, you know, a chunky premium. If I was doing, I don't like that it's going up by $5, so I'd have to go probably September 25th. Yeah, okay, now I can do these. Not a whole lot of volume, high spreads. Man, Zeta. This is why I just wasn't a huge fan of doing this on Zeta, because of this $5 jump, and then if you go to the weeklies, there's not a whole lot of volume on the option chain. But let's see. They don't have October. Why? They don't have October or November. They have October 2nd, but that's a weekly. That's not even a monthly. Weird. So with the options given to me, I'd be doing 30 for September 18th. Because my anticipation is that it falls back below 30 by then. It could go above 30, but by September 18th, I would predict that it's back below 30. Or if you wanted to raise all the cash, then I would go to January and I would do 40. Which will pay you more cash and you have your strike at 40. And it gives you more money up front to use on the dip. And you don't have to manage it as much. It'll either sell for 40 or not for 40 in January. So those two ways. Either at the money for September, because that'll be a quicker turnaround, save up more cash to take advantage of other stuff. And then, or 40 gives it more time. If it dips, you can close it early, right? In September anyway. Or if it doesn't dip, you still have $10 more of upside. So, or you can do 45 if you want to be extra safe. However you want to play that. Reading text. Got a lot of them. I see your message. I was just waiting for your message. Gonna go through real quick on here. Yeah, so with the further out the date, the stock has to drop heavier to get the same effect. So you would just like, the best way to describe it, I guess. The further out you go, yes, the slower it is to be able to close it earlier for a larger portion of the gain. But what I will say is that you get more cash up front, right? Because they're going to put that money in your account now. And if the trade goes against you, this is kind of why I do like it right now, because we're going into the second half of the year, or we're in the second half of the year. Like, you have $10. I don't see Zeta running to 40 and then running to 50, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of chop in between there. And pullback. So I think that you have all the time to get there, right? Even if it got to 40, I think that it then falls back down to 30 or, stuff like that. So I only like doing these long ones as we approach the end of the year, though, for the purposes of taxes, too, because you technically only pay tax on gains when you claim them. So when you actually close your covered call is when you claim those gains, not when they put the money in your account. They're going to put the money in your account now, but in January, when it actually closes, that's when you would technically claim the gains for taxes. So you wouldn't pay taxes onto it till the following year. I'm not a tax advisor by any means, so talk to a tax professional, but I would say that it is a huge benefit as you approach the end of the year, not in the beginning of the year, to do that. But come September, if we have the drop that we think, or beginning of October we have the drop that we think, I think you would get to close them for pretty dang close to 80%. And then you got the cash up front to then buy more or buy something else or whatever you wanted to buy. Bought 200 shares of Nibius at 215. ONDS. Iran. Again, I'm still bullish for the next 12 months, but I still want to have cash right now for an opportunity because, like somebody else just said, like you can take them buying bonds back two ways. Bullish because, right, they're protecting us, or bearish because they are panicking and having to do something to step in besides managing inflation, the war, and everything. They're just saying we'll buy it down ourselves. So it's like us buying back our debt, right? Like it's just we are managing our own risk by taking on our risk, and printing more money and buying back more instead of things taking its natural course. We are interfering with it to make things happen, and that can be a bearish and create another issue, right? It's like if you went back in the past and changed something, the future changes. We don't know for better or worse until things play out, but it can cause some issues. I think they're going to really push for rate cuts to happen, to also kind of manufacture a saving grace. Yeah. And then you have till January, and you can roll it more and do whatever. Like it leaves you a lot of options, and it gives you cash. So it's just another way to play it. Iran went green. That's awesome. I want things to stay green. Trust me. I don't care if things get called away. I prefer you to get called away and let things go. Like I want to sell hymns for 33. I'd be very happy. Right, the rest of mine at 33. So, no problem. Alrighty. Alrighty, guys. I'm going to hop off. I'm going to get to a few emails and kind of get caught up on the week I missed. But I'll be back on. I'll still be in the chats and everything like that, so you guys can throw questions our way. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the community. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll upload the video later today.